Is your landlord as stubborn as a mule when it comes to returning your security deposit? Coming up on this week's SCMP Property.
You may have to take the landlord to the courts.
Try and get the landlord in.
Carry out a comprehensive survey.
So you're ready to move on to greener pastures. However, your landlord isn't about to let loose your security deposit. It's a scenario that can give even the savviest of renters some sleepless nights. One viewer's landlord is being particularly tight-fisted. He writes, "I'm in the process of moving out of my apartment after a long lease. The landlord is withholding the deposit because of supposed damage. How can I prove that any damage was in fact wear and tear rather than something I've caused?" Our first expert explains that being a sure shot with a camera can help keep your security deposit safe.
Hopefully when you moved in you would have had a report on the state of a repair and photograph evidence to document the state of a repair as well. If you do, then go back to that document and that'll be able to justify what is fair wear and tear. Also, try and get the landlord in to have a preliminary report first so that you can actually see where he's coming from and whether there are areas that you can negotiate.
So you'll be leaps ahead if you can get snapshots and have an open flow of communication with your landlord at the onset of your lease. But this is after the fact, and it doesn't help our viewer with his present predicament. As our next expert explains, scrutiny from an outside professional can be very helpful.
Initially, an independent party such as chartered building surveyor can actually be brought in, say, by the tenant to carry out a comprehensive survey and assessment of those alleged damage or defects within the premises. And a professional should be able to actually come up with suggestions and recommendations on the repairing obligations of those defects or state of disrepair identified on site.
And if getting your cash out of your landlord really is like drawing blood from a stone, you can always fight it out in the legal system.
Now, first of all, you've got to check your tenancy agreement to see what provision it has in relation to the condition in which you have to hand your property back to the landlord in. Because it is not actually automatic that leases would allow wear and tear in the property when you hand over. So once that position is sure and you are convinced that the landlord has wrongfully withheld the tenant's deposit, then you may consider taking the landlord to the small claims tribunal. But if your deposit were a really substantial one, then if that exceeds the jurisdiction of the small claims tribunal, then you may have to take the landlord to the courts, which is a more expensive process.
It's a gamble, but if you think your story can hold up to the uncompromising glare of the judges, going to court may be your last option. And just remember, despite what the name implies, a security deposit may not be something you can count on when you bid your old flat adieu. The best way to avoid losing your deposit is to protect yourself with hard evidence and know the terms of your lease. Hopefully you can avoid a messy battle. That's all for this week. This has been Lauren Bass.